Hey guys, welcome to today's Sit With Me. This one's a bit different. It's not a live session. I already finished the piece, but I wanted to take you along in retrospect and show you how it really looked to restore a beaded t-shirt. So the beads on this t-shirt faded a lot. Once they were like this pink tone and now they've turned into clear beads. I only worked on the outer border this time since the center beadwork was still in good condition. If you've ever wondered what goes into bringing old bead embroidery back to life, this is probably the most honest version you'll see, including all the slow parts, the messy parts, and the tiny stitches that no one usually talks about. So if you're working on your own project right now, just make yourself comfortable and bead along with me. So the first challenge, as you can see, was removing the old interlining, and that was painful. The problem with iron-on interlining is that it melts slightly into the stitches. So every time you pull, you can feel the thread resisting, almost like it's glued into the fabric. I try to be gentle, but sometimes you just have to accept that it's not going to come off cleanly. I scratched a bit around the edges, carefully lifting only the parts that I needed to uncover the outer border where the new beads will go. And it's one of those tasks that look easy on the camera, but in real life it takes a lot of patience and a bit of trust that everything will be fine once everything is covered again. And honestly, since I'll add a new interlining at the end, who cares how this part looks underneath, right? And it's also the part that teaches me something about control. You just have to know when to stop fixing, because if I overdo it, it'll definitely end up tearing some stitches. And then I'll have a way bigger problem, and sometimes perfection actually destroys the fabric. So at this point, there's no turning back either way. So then came the cutting. This t-shirt was one of my earlier projects, and back then I used a beading technique where I stitched every single bead twice. So it made the embroidery more secure, I would say, but now it also means that I have to cut every single bead and it won't just fall off when I do one cut and then pull some of the beads. So every single bead. It's time consuming, but also strangely satisfying, like undoing something your past self did, and you know how much effort is behind this beadwork. And here's also a disclaimer, it's not rage bait, I'm really just trying to restore the bead embroidery, and it's a real upcycling project. I also kept thinking about how different my technique has become. Now I mostly use the backstitch. It's way faster and still durable enough, but you also save a lot of time. I actually have a tutorial on that, but you'll see a bit of it later when I get to the new beading part. And I really try to be careful here because once in another upcycling project, I accidentally cut into the fabric with these tiny scissors and it was not funny. So this time I took it slow. So that kind of slow where you lose track of time and you get into this flow state. That's usually my favorite part of creating. So maybe you're also undoing something right now, maybe a color or a mistake, whatever it is. Just keep in mind it's part of the process. It's not wasted time, it's literally how we learn texture and color theory and improve our own taste. I also had to pull some pieces of thread out of the fabric, so apparently some were still stuck in the interlining and wouldn't come out. So as you can see, things don't always go perfectly, but everything will look fine in the end. So in this section, I'm being extra careful and checking that the rest of the beadwork is intact. I remember that I beaded this embroidery in different sections. So I used separate threads for the border and the inner part and, for example, the eyes and the lips and so on. But it's always good to be extra careful. However, everything seems to be fine. And then came the fun part, choosing the new beads. So the original embroidery was soft pink and looked kind of sweet. And I have a lot of pink tones in my bead stash. But I wanted to shift it, so don't judge me if I chose the wrong color. This time I went for red beads with an iris finish because I think they catch the light beautifully, like a little rainbow reflection. I hope you can see this in the video. And the red also echoes the red of the lips, so I thought, why not? So the beads are from Toho, called Toho Treasure in size 11. And I'm also using Miyuki beading thread in white this time. You might remember this from my last bead haul. I really wanted to use more durable thread for future projects. So this is not a paid ad, I just love the quality and I think it's very durable. So we start by adding the embroidery frame to ensure everything is taut during the beading process. And then I start by making a few knots at the very end of the thread. I usually do like 2 to 3 knots so everything stays in place. So then I come up from the back of the fabric and take 2 beads Then I leave a small gap and stitch down. So then I come back up where I started and then pass the needle through those 2 beads again. And then you can add 2 more beads, leave a small gap and stitch down. And then you come up where you place that second stitch. And then you just keep going. So it's very repetitive and it's also the part where I usually get lost in my thoughts. So, if you haven't started beading yet and came this far in the video, what's keeping you from it? It's literally the best hobby, and you can elevate every basic t-shirt with some cute beads. And I also think it has a very luxurious touch. From here, I'll just show you the beading part until we get to the next step. So now we are done with the beading part, and I'll just secure the beads with 2 to 3 knots where I slightly stitch into the fabric and make a knot. And then you can just simply cut off the excess thread. So now we're done, but don't forget to secure the beadwork. So I traced the back of the beadwork on a new piece of interlining, and then I cut it out and iron it on with medium heat. This seals everything in and protects the stitches and gives the fabric a bit of structure again. So that's it, the full restoration. It's definitely wearable again. If you've been crafting along, I hope this gave you the same quiet focus it gave me, and thanks for sitting with me, and see you in the next session.